Okay, I did not go through this on the remote. So I think I have it backwards. Yeah, all right. I think I can go with it now. Just slightly, a little bit about me. In high school, I worked at a lead factory making fishing lures. And do you see where that could go wrong? Yeah. Yeah. I got really, really sick in my early 20s, and I didn't know what was causing it. I had blood work done. I had hair analysis. There was no heavy metal problem showing up. But in desperation, in 2003, I moved to Arizona to try to salvage what was left of my existence. Constant headaches, insomnia. And I went to a doctor in Tucson who said, "You are loaded with heavy metals." This was after urinalysis. And I had done urinalyses before, but not the way this doctor did it. Yeah, I was loaded with lead, mercury, arsenic, many other heavy metals as well. So let's just get going with what we did. All right. I couldn't do a whole lot when I got out here, but I could still use my hands, my arms, my legs. And I was trying to figure out a way to build a home. I remember checking out a rammed earth home north of Tucson. That's where I first stayed, north of Oracle Junction. And this rammed earth home was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But when the owner said he thought he was developing carpal tunnel from tamping the earth day after day, shoveling the soil, I thought, yeah, I really don't want carpal tunnel, and I may have it anyway, or something similar. This picture was taken at a friend's place, Victor Chavez. By the way, this slideshow is going to have a lot of local names in it. These are the people that helped me and my wife, Juvie, build our home. And so you can see in the background of his garage, that's burnt adobe, probably imported from Sonora or Agua Prieta, just across the line, just like my house's interior walls were from Sonora. The guy that did the interior walls would just bring up a load in his pickup truck every day that he would come out to work. And it was rather affordable at that time. I'm not sure how it is now. Victor Chavez was a World War II vet who just passed away about a month ago. I believe he was 98 years old. Wonderful, humorous man. Autumn of 2004, remember, I could still use my legs, my hands, and so I started digging a trench that would be the rubble foundation. If you're not familiar with rubble foundations, you can talk to me afterward. The technique is ancient. You just fill up this trench with the local rock. Again, I could pick up lots of rocks at that time. Still can. Ramiro Marquez and Pablo Castillo built the stem wall. I had an allergy to concrete, which is kind of strange that I was going to live in this home, but especially fresh concrete would just really make me sick. But as it cured, it wasn't so bad. So here you see the exterior wall. We used forms that I borrowed from a friend north of Tucson, and Ramiro and Pablo started setting those stones. Here's my rock collection. I actually picked up too many big rocks and developed an inguinal hernia and had to have that operated on in 2005. Oh yeah, here's again the rock collection, and you can see that exterior wall going up. I was so chemically sensitive at the time that terpenes in pine wood would just give me a headache. So I decided I don't want wood frames around my windows, and so these gentlemen accommodated my need and just put the windows in as they built, which I wouldn't do it that way if I would have known that I would have been getting healthier as the years progressed. The Southwest has been fantastic toward my health. The hiking, the sweating, the eating better foods. I still have some heavy metal problems, but I'm much better than I used to be. Oh, so this photo I threw in here because we bought a canopy, or actually several canopies, and over it was a great place. You could see I think I'm hanging my laundry there that day, and plenty of trouble with canopies. The winds are just too tough out here. I must have rebuilt that canopy about 8 times. So my first monsoon year was 2004. It was the most beautiful, gorgeous monsoon that I've ever seen since in 20 years of being out here, where a little cotton ball cloud would develop over the San Simon Valley or above the Chiricahuas. And by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was this gigantic thunder cloud. And then the dust storm would well up from San Simon and come through the valley and tear my canopy to pieces. Yeah, that's some of those gorgeous clouds. Oh, and then the excess rock, I had stones that were so big I don't know how I got them in my little car to begin with, or my truck. I just made a cactus garden. There's the burnt adobe interior wall. And I've been a gardener since I was a little boy in diapers planting jelly beans. And so here I am with one of the most gorgeous gardens I've had in the Southwest. This year's garden is not that fantastic. We didn't have a great monsoon last year, and my garden is suffering because of it, even though I do water with well water. And I threw this in because that corn looks gorgeous, but I garden organically, and if you grow corn out here organically, you're going to have worms in the ears. And I think this was probably a walk-in corn. Wasn't a sweet corn, but if you don't eat a lot of sugar in your diet, it was really tasty sweet corn. Oh, I got to tell you a little bit about this Chinese chestnut. It was doing great for a number of years, and then one day I'm out watering it. The next day it's dead. Any guesses on what it died of? Sudden death? Anybody? Texas loneliness. Texas root rot. We have a fungus out here that will kill things overnight. Oh, and so I'm sure some of you, being resourceful, have thought of using a camper shell to protect your bags of cement. That's what's going on in that photo. Oh my. On the shortest day of the year, I believe it was December 21st, I went to Chandler to pick up a load of perlite. The perlite was going to be the insulator between my rock wall and my burnt adobe wall. And it worked out, but that was quite a trip. You can see that the whole setup is leaning, and I'm just lucky I didn't wipe out several people on I-10. I threw this in because the title of this talk on the slideshow is Building a Home. And so there's a difference between a home and a house. And home is rodeo, portal, and getting healthier out here. And I did that by hiking back into Horseshoe Canyon, sometimes twice, 3 times a week. Once a year for 20 years now, I've hiked Mount 6020 on October, I think it's October 23rd, if anybody wants to go. And then over here we have Portal behind these mountains, and of course, I'm talking right over here. You can almost see me. And so this image also shows the trusses that I'm going to be using in this house, or we used in the house. This is not a rafter style home. It's sort of a hybrid of what Jonathan is talking about. I used a number of natural products, but I also used steel and modern technology, although I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't even read at this point in time. Paper would give me a terrible headache. I can be around paper. I can read a book now, so it's much better. All right, there's the scaffolding I borrowed from my friend David Newton, and I believe that's Frida, the Jack Russell dog. Yeah, you can see it wasn't too hard to handle. They were heavy. My neighbor and friend Ken Jones did the welding for these trusses. I've had people at the time say, Craig, what you've got going is overkill. I don't think I needed I-beams that strong. Again, couldn't read up on what the limits would be or what I needed to have, but I worked with Metal Depot out of Las Cruces, and metal was cheap at this time, right before it started to get much more pricey. Yeah, here I have friends, Ken Jones, me, David Newton, and Buzz Shurian. We're bolting those trusses together. I like the grass and weeds inside the house. Yeah, there they are. The two of them installed. They hold up the purlins. That's one of the end gables that I built on the ground. Maybe I think I might have even disassembled it from the ground and then reinstalled it because it was all put together with screws. Yeah, there's one of the gables installed. The American flag makes it look a bit like a moonscape with an abandoned home on it. Yeah, the purlins not exactly bolted together yet, but there's some of them up there. And there's my trusty Toyota that I wish I never would have sold. Yeah, these are the top two purlins on the house. One of the gables. Oh, so this shows our homemade scab or joining of the purlins. Oh, and then a friend in rodeo who went to church with my wife. I didn't go to church. I didn't even go in any buildings at this time, not even close. He offered to give us some siding, some metal, corrugated metal off of an old cotton gin from around rodeo. So Junior Gomez brought a load of paneling out of metal, and that became the not necessarily the exterior of the gable, because we then stuccoed that sheeting. Well, anyway, I'll keep going, but you get the idea. Yeah, we've kind of seen that before. Oh, there's my gorgeous chestnut. And here we are. I believe that's Thanksgiving dinner, probably 2005. And I had to throw one in with Frida. There's Frida the dog. She smelled the turkey or the chicken. I thought you might enjoy cold Arizona because we're getting ready to get into hot Arizona. That's at the base of Mount 6020, where I hike once a year. And I told myself I'm never doing it again after doing it for 2 decades, but we'll see. That was a scary night. That was in June, I believe. Horseshoe 1, Horseshoe 2 is much more famous around here, but Horseshoe 1 was very scary. That's just in our backyard. A hot, dry June wind blew all that night. Luckily, there was a line of portal rescue and probably Forest Service firefighters between the blaze and our actual house. I'm not sure Peter or Francis Grill are here today. Francis is our nurse practitioner in Portal, and her husband did the tile work on our bathroom. Oh, look, since this is a guy with chemical sensitivity, you may be wondering, why does he have a door in his bathroom? Well, the idea was, let's say I get sprayed with gasoline or some other chemical that I just couldn't stand. I could take off all my clothes outside and then jump into the bathroom and take a shower. And I'm so glad my bathroom has an exterior door. There's the metal paneling from an old cotton gin. With my chemical sensitivities, that metal actually made me sick when it was delivered. But I was able to, with dishwashing soap and a broom and running water, scrub that down and get to where I could be around it. This is the soy-based foam insulation. I'm not sure they still exist. I should have looked it up on the internet. I believe they were out of Phoenix. And the reason I used this product was the network of people with multiple chemical sensitivity that I worked with over the phone. I had friends from Missouri that were that's my home state, Missouri. They were active in helping people build a safer home. And they said many people with chemical allergies or sensitivities were getting along quite well with isonine. And we were very fortunate to get them to come out. And I was, like I say, very, very sick. And this stuff I did not really react to it much. And as it cured out, it was not a problem at all. Yeah, here's the spray foam. And remember, this is the window that had the cotton gin metal on it, and it's covered with the foam. I used to joke that now, instead of building a rock and brick home, all I could have done was salvage some old metal and build a metal framed home and then spray isonine. I know the insulation value is not fantastic. I don't even know the numbers, but we live in such a great place to build for both heat and cold. I mean, we're that moderate that this really worked out. 5 minutes? Whoa, okay. I'll get to, all right. I put in the brick floor myself. It's on a sand substrate. This is the early days. Oh, so the plaster I made from the clay in my garden, plus sand, plus some fiber, a little bit of like, not feldspar, but there's another shiny mica. I think it was mica that went into that plaster. I did it with my hands, and the problem with doing it with your hands, it was fantastic, but after just a few days of doing this for several hours, slathering it up there, the alkalinity, is that the word, alkalinity of the soil, it started to eat the skin off of my hands, and I'd have to rest up for a few days, because it would just eat the skin off, not to where I was in any had any health concerns. But yeah, anyway, I better keep going. Yeah, this was fascinating. I did this myself. It's burnt adobe with adobe raw plaster as the mortar. And if anybody wants to do burnt adobe, boy, I would suggest skipping the cement mortar, and just, if you've got lots of clay in your soil, using clay as your mortar, because this wall is fantastic in our home. It's never caused any problems. There's that same wall after a little more work. I built a loft with maple flooring because maple doesn't have terpenes, or not very much terpene in the chemical makeup of the wood. That's Marcy, the Jack Rat Terrier. So these are tiles placed on, again, just an adobe substrate. So instead of using grout and cement-based mortar, it's just right on the clay. I've had right at the entrance to the room, one of those tiles came loose once. I wet the floor, slapped a little more clay in there, stuck it back down, and it's held for 15 years or so. So again, a nice cheap way to put in a tile floor. Oh, I still see that chestnut. I hate it. All right, and that's the last slide of the. Here's the people that helped me, and quite a few of those have passed away, but they were good friends, and they are good friends, and I've made many more friends since then. And does that about work for the end of the presentation? So I'll take questions if anybody has questions. Thank you. Yes. We do get mice in the house sometimes, and we hear them chewing, and then I set a trap and take care of them. I haven't really actually ever seen where they've nibbled around on the insulation, but that's a great question, and my guess is they might. Yes. I did not put solar in it yet. It's just living sort of raw. We do use rechargeable lights because we have alternating current in the corner of the property. That's where our freezer is. It's an Airstream trailer too in the corner of the property. So we get by reading at night, no television. I have a propane cook stove outside that takes care of cooking needs, plus an electric stove in the Airstream. Good question. Yes? No, those burnt adobe bricks were brought in from Agua Prieta. Yeah. And burnt adobe doesn't have the insulating value that sun-baked adobe has. It's a cheaper product and maybe not as strong as your bigger natural adobe brick that isn't baked. Yes. 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 And my neighbor, who arrived about 10 years after this house was started, or maybe 5, he actually built a home of rock like mine, but he has a huge roof on it that protects those walls. His mortar is, again, the adobe clay. And it's gorgeous looking. But the roof protects that adobe. Yes. Go ahead. 3 feet, I believe. 3 feet thick, because by the time you have the rock wall, the dead air space, which I filled with perlite, and then the burnt adobe, we're coming close to 3 feet on that. So with this sort of climate, we have from anywhere 0 hot nights in the summertime with all the windows open to maybe some summers 3 nights that are intolerable. We don't have air conditioning. And in the winter, I cheated and put in as I healed, I put in a wood stove, and makes that fantastic living as well. Yes. It's not done yet. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, at 20 years, I'm living in it, but I've gotten busy with other things. Construction is not my forte, not at all. And as I heal, I've as Bill knows, he's the president of the Cochise County Historical Society, and I'm the vice president and the directing editor of that periodical. So I spend a lot of hours editing and writing and researching history. That's my love. Yes. This gentleman asked if I'm using cilantro to pull out heavy metal. And 2 days ago, I bought some cilantro tincture. And I've used cilantro before, and I like it in my food. I'm not one of those folks that notices the soapy taste, but yeah, so I do use that once in a while. I was big on chlorella for years and just got away from it. That's an algae that supposedly pulls out heavy metal as well. Yes. Good. Yeah, we need some extra cooling for those 2 or 3 days in June, those nights. The days aren't bad. The house can get up to 85 at 4 o'clock, but by 6 o'clock, we're opening up all the windows. We get a breeze through there. Not bad at all. But if you try to go to sleep and that outdoor wind is 85, 90 degrees, it's rather intolerable. So yeah, and I've tried wetting bath towels and putting them over the curtain rods to do a swamp cooler effect, and that doesn't work. So yeah, I just keep praying that each year is not going to have the same conditions as say 3 years ago. So not every year do we have sleepless nights from the heat. But did that answer your question? Yeah. So I'm always drink cold liquids, I guess, before bed. Yeah. Yes, Scott. I had to drive around and harvest from the earth all over the place because our land has about 12 inches of soil. And I know this from when Sonny Rourke dug the septic with his backhoe. After about a foot, well, and then I garden as well and start hitting big stones. So I didn't have a lot of natural stone on my property to where I could access it. But I used quite a bit of rock that Sonny dug up with his backhoe. But then, yeah, I just spent my weekends driving around and picking up rocks. I had a little Nissan Sentra, and I would load that trunk up with rock. It's front wheel drive, and the wheels would barely be touching the highway. Oh, time to go. Thank you so much.